lower. I'm not willing to pay that much money for this house. I was doing it just to beat the competition. I'm like, that's not how this works. Like, that's
Wow.
not it. And then so they actually held his EMD too because of it. Like it was a $6,000 earnest money.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Ooh.
he still walked. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to The Closing Table. My name is Kevin C. McIntosh. I am your host, and joining us on this episode, we are here to pick the brain of another top producing real estate agent, goes by the name of Jake Davis. How are you, Jake?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
Doing excellent, man. Appreciate you taking time to be here with us today. We definitely want to acknowledge that. And like we said, we are here to talk business, pick your brain about your experience and your market. But first, I like to cool things down with an icebreaker. For you, I have something called This or That. Essentially, it's just two words or phrases that are a little bit contradictory to each other. I just need you to tell us which one you choose. And if you want, you can tell us why. If not, we'll just keep it moving. You ready?
Cool. Yeah.
All right, first one for you. Knowledge of real estate laws and regulations or familiarity with local housing market trends?
Familiarity with local housing market trends for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Ability to work independently or teamwork skills?
Both are essential to be successful in real estate. Because if you think about it, you got to be able to work yourself and you got to be able to motivate yourself to do the work. But at the same time, we all work as a team to get to the closing table for the buyer or the seller, so we got to be able to do both.
Good point. Appraised value or assessed value?
Appraised.
Okay. Foreclosure or short sale?
Short sales for open market. Yep. Foreclosures are good if you're trying to get some off-market property, you're trying to do some type of investing. But if you're trying to get on market, short sale for sure.
Love it. Last one, seller financing or bank financing?
Also depends on the goal. Depends on the profile. So that one we could go into for a long time.
Okay. Love it. Well, appreciate you, Jake, starting things off with us a little loosey-goosey.
Yes,
now let's get into a little bit of who you are, man. I like to take this time, 60 seconds or less, if you could tell us who you are outside of real estate.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm Jake. I'm 35, just turned 35 this year, so that's a big number. I got two little boys. One is 6, Jacob Jr. is 6, and I have another son, Zachariah. He'll be 4 at the beginning of October. Both of them polar opposites, like most wild dudes, but they're polar opposites. So if I'm not working, most of my time I spend with those little guys, because like I said, they're little right now, right? Like I'm still the coolest toy they have, so I want to really capture that as much as I can, just
exactly
relationship with them. I love those little dudes. And my wife Amanda, we've been together for I actually just came on our Facebook. It's 9 years now.
Congratulations.
Makes everything possible. She runs the house and takes care of everything. We're super into health. That's our main number one goal is always health. We follow medical medium to the T. That's the way we live our lives, making sure we're always cleansing. There's just so many toxins out in the world that are just trying to kill us, man. It's all out there. So it's our job to use our free will to, elevate ourselves and do the best we can, especially with the boys. We want to give them the best stepping stone possible, and health is the true wealth. So that's our main thing. Main focus always outside of work. Health always comes first. So.
Love that, man. Love to hear it. All right, so let's talk about where you do your business right now, man. Take your time. Describe your current market that you're serving in as much detail as possible. Geographically first, give details to our audience who may have never been there to your market, and then talk about a little bit of the details in regards to what's going on economically with real estate.
Okay, perfect. So my main market that I focus on is Rochester Hills. I live in Rochester Hills, Michigan myself. We're about 40 minutes north of Detroit proper. The biggest thing about our area that I and most people are attracted to is we have a very the downtown Rochester is a very, very affluent area. They have a lot of events going on every single year. They do this thing called Lanyap, which is the lighting the lights. The entire downtown Rochester is lit up in lights. It's beautiful. Every single year they do it for Christmas. So that's the main thing that attracts me to Rochester. It's such a great. The school district is one of the best in Michigan. But my actual geographic, I wouldn't say farm, but my area that I work is all of Metro Detroit. I've sold houses as far north as Grand Blanc, which is about 2 hours from Detroit. As far south as Flat Rock, which is another hour outside of Detroit south. And then I've gone as far west as Ann Arbor, which is another hour outside of Detroit, and then about St. Clair Shores, which is another east, which is another hour outside of Detroit. So I'm basically entire bubble. I've sold houses in the area. My main thing is I'm here to serve. You know, my entire job, I tell everybody this, is that I help people first and I make money after. You know, like my whole job is to help people either buy or sell their house with give them the most information possible so they can make the most informed decision they possibly can.
Love that.
So currently within the market, I would like to cover the whole Metro Detroit area. Within the whole Metro Detroit area, our average sales price has increased slightly from last year's about $338,000 to $340,000 this year. So with the all the media telling us that the market's crashing and all that stuff, that those terms are so relative, right? Our Michigan market is completely different than we say Arizona. The Arizona market,
absolutely,
Florida. You know, they all have their own market. So if you want to blanket it, you're just doing a disservice to people. So in our current market, we've got that average price point is still ticking up. Our average days on the market have increased from 15 days last year to 22 days this year. So that does show there is a slight slowdown, right? So a year ago today, interest rates were almost half of what they are now. So that's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. Interest rates have come up, and everyone's expecting this huge shift where everything is going to start falling off, and all of a sudden we're crashing into a buyer's market. That's just not how it works, you know, especially because there's a massive lack of inventory nationwide. 2010 to 2020, they built 20 million less houses than they did the previous decade. So, right, exactly, dude, exactly. So because of that, we're seeing this really huge like bottleneck where first-time home buyers, they'll buy the first-time home buyer home is usually 1,500 square feet or under. And those people, because they can't get into their next step, which is usually that new construction home, that's a brand new home, it's over 1,500 square feet, because there's such a bottleneck there, they don't have anywhere to move. So the first-time home buyer doesn't have anywhere to move into either. So underneath 200,000 in Michigan, in the Metro Detroit area, there's so much competition right now. It's insane. You know, like I've a few buyers in that price point, and everything has at least 3 or 4 offers on it minimum. You know, it's going for over the list price where they're getting the appraised value, all these kind of things. So it's just the state of our market. Basically kind of to that exact point too, our inventory has actually come down as well, about 27%. So we're at like 6,200. Yeah, standing inventory is about 6,200 opposed to last year was 8,600. You know, so it's going along with basic economics where the amount of houses just aren't there. Supply is just not there, even though interest rates are coming up. You know, and that does knock out a lot of buyers because people that were approved at 3% are not approved at 7% anymore. So it's just the way it goes. And then another thing I always like to explain to everybody too is that we go by an absorption rate of homes. If we were to stop listing houses today, how long would it take to sell every house on the market? If it takes 6 months to sell every house on the market, we're in a balanced market. If it takes over 6 months, we're in a buyer's market. And if it takes under 6 months, we're in a seller's market. So right now, we're at roughly about like 1.8 months worth of inventory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So all this talk about, you know, the housing market's going to shift and all this, it's like we need 3 times as many houses on the market just to balance. And then we got a couple years of balance, and then there will be a decline.
Correct.
That's just how it goes. So, and last year we were at about 2.1 months. So have a decrease. We have less houses this year than we did last year. Still, even with interest rates.
You gave The best answer. I love that. And I'll say this, especially because I'm familiar with that area. So everything you're saying to me, I'm like, whoa, really? Wow, wow. And I like the fact that you pointed out the difference in the market from Detroit, but Michigan compared to the entire nation, because the pricing is different, the days on the market is different, the conditions are different. Like I talk to people in Florida or Washington or San Diego or some San Francisco, and they'll say, yeah, you know, average price, or Denver, average price 600, 800,000. You can find areas like that, but it's not too common in the like Detroit area.
Right.
Now, obviously, you can find some in the suburbs and things of that nature. But saying all that to say, the Detroit market is completely different relative to
100%.
other markets. And it's always been like that, at least for as long as I can remember. The stigma behind it has had a lot of people move, which makes, we can get into that. But I love that response. I definitely have to go back and watch you say that again, because that was a lot of information. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Moving forward, though, Jake, beneficial characteristics that your market has that attracts buyers. What are those exactly?
The main
what would you say they are?
Yeah, I'd say the main thing that attracts people to my general market is the automotive industry. Still, we still have a lot of foreign nationals that are still coming from overseas to work in the automotive industry. Even though, you know, we have seen there's the shift in the automotive, everything's going to EV, but still we are still a big hub for that, you know. So
Correct.
I do see a lot of that. Most people are still really that does drive a lot of focus is the automotive industry. So that's what I would say, like economically, is we are still seeing a lot of that. But then if you were to say like other beneficial things of my personal market with like Rochester Hills, is like the community itself is really great. It's one of the I think it was ranked second safest city in the United States. It gets within the top 5 every year, always has, you know, so it's very safe area, great schools, a lot of really awesome parks. And we're only about 40 minutes from Detroit proper also, you know, which is a really like, it's up and coming. There's a lot going on down there still. We've got Ferndale, which is 20 minutes from us. Downtown Clarkston, which is another more of a rural, but it's like has one of the cutest downtowns you'll ever see. So stuff like that, you know what I mean? You're only about half an hour away from like a bunch of like just going in Michigan. We call it going up north. Is just when we go north of where we are. Anything about an hour north of our city is up north. That's what we call it here, you know. So it's like you're really close up north.
I love it. Okay, good. I like that too. I didn't know too much about Rochester Hills. I didn't know that it was ranked as one of the safest places in the country. You said in the country?
Yep, it's also in the top 5. Yeah, it's great. It's just a great area. Yep.
Nice, beautiful. So going back to one of your first transactions, either your first one or one of your first, what valuable lesson have you taken from that transaction that adds value to your client that you continue to use and practice today?
So funny story. So I started my real estate career in Hawaii, actually. My mom is originally from Oahu. Yeah, she was born and raised in Oahu. My dad was a recon Marine, met her out there. They moved back here. So we had our first kid. We're like, let's move out to Hawaii. You know what I mean? I got a bunch of family out there. Let's go. So I really started my real estate career out there. Literally it was either my first or my second transaction. We got under contract. Everything's going well. Then all of a sudden I get a call from the lender saying, yeah, the buyer actually decided, I was working with the buyer. Buyer decided to tell his company, who's a teacher, to tell the school that he's not coming back after the summer. And when they called to verify, the school's like, no, he doesn't have a job after summer, so it could no longer be funded for the loan. Yeah. Luckily, the lender was able to work some magic. You know what I mean? She was able to work it around, put it in the wife's name only, and they were able to close without a hitch. But ever since then, you know, just really got to educate buyers. Don't make any big transactions. Don't make any big moves. Even if you're planning a big move, just wait. Just wait till after you close the house, you know? So that was a pretty big one. Literally, I think it was like my first or second deal I ever closed.
Yeah, wow. I see. Employment obviously affects, you know, your status with your lender also. A lot of times we talk about the big credit purchases and opening credit cards. Those are big no-nos before or while you're doing it, you know, getting a pre-approved or purchasing a home. But that's another great one that you just brought up, the fact of changing jobs or leaving positions or whatever the case may be. Put all of that on hold if you can until after you close, at least.
And if you're planning it, just don't say anything. Just keep it on the hush. That's it.
For real. For real. Yo, but let's go back. Hawaii?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
How did you get
I
here?
know, dude.
Michigan of all
That's the stuff
places.
that all the time. Like, so we were out there. We were only out there for like a few months. I ended up selling within my first month of being in real estate out there because I was like grinding. I'm like, I got to make this work. I sold like $1 million in real
Hmm.
estate within my first 45 days. So I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm running everything, doing whatever I got to do. And then we got news from my mother-in-law that she had a 70% clogged artery in her throat. So super high
Oh,
risk of stroke.
wow.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
And we ended up getting, we
Yeah.
got pregnant within the first like couple weeks of being out there. So my wife's going through her first trimester. She gets this news about her mom, and I'm working like crazy, right? Because I'm hustling the most I can. And there were
Yeah.
literally, it was 3 weeks straight where I was working 12-hour days every day, and I'm like, and once we got that news, it was just like we couldn't imagine if anything were to happen to her mom while we're out there, like it was,
Hmm.
we were like, no, we have to move back. So we moved back. Luckily, she's fine. She didn't have to have any surgeries. They got her on these different medications, whatever. It like cleared the blockage, and she's healthy now. So she gets her tests done and stuff too. But she's healthy now. So thank God for that. But yeah, that's
Okay.
what brought us back. That was what brought us back.
How long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking?
2019.
Okay, so not too far.
No, just a
I
few
gotta
years ago.
ask, what are some things about the Hawaii market? I have yet to talk to an agent from out there. Tell us some things about the Hawaii market, the real estate things and housing and the community,
Yeah.
everything, please.
So Hawaii itself, because I was on the island of Oahu, which has Honolulu on it, Honolulu North Shore. That's like the main what everybody knows about. Waikiki
Hmm.
Boulevard is there. I basically I would say I was kind of raised there. Like I said, my mom's originally from there, so we'd go back every single year during Christmas. We'd stay for like a month at a time. Like it's kind of like a second home to me, so I know it very well. But when you get there and you actually have to live there and like be an adult there and do everything, it's different. What you learn about it is that
Right.
Hawaii, it's this very small island that you can drive from end to end in an hour. Like literally
Mm.
any end to end, you can go drive there an hour. You can drive around the entire island in 3 hours. So it's like very small. But even though it's that small, every single side of the island has a completely different market to it. So you can go like the south side of the island, which is Honolulu or Waikiki. Um, Hawaii Kai, that's like very well. Honolulu, Waikiki, that's like the city. That would be like equivalent of like Detroit proper here. But
Okay.
then you get right outside of there is Hawaii Kai, which is very, very affluent. Like you're getting like minimum $1 million houses there. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It has the harbor there. It's really gorgeous. And then you get up the side a little bit more. That's only locals. Waimanalo Bay, only locals. If you're not local, don't even try to go to the beach there. They're gonna kick you out. Yeah. They
Really?
only have a few of their areas that are left are really only local only. So there's that side, and then on the other side, which is Makaha Surf, which is like basically like if this is I always use my hands for everything, but if this is Hawaii and this is like that side where Waimanalo Bay is, all the way over
Mhm.
here is Makaha Surf. And then you got North Shore, which North Shore everybody knows about North Shore. It's like the best surfing, all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And then you got Makakilo down here, which is another. It was that area is actually a lot like California. It's we have a very strong California vibe. But then this side of the island, you've got Kaneohe or Hawaii, not Hawaii Kai, but Kailua, which is like another people act like it's like California because it's you're only seeing white people in there. It's kind of, not Hawaii Kai, but Kailua. But
Gotcha.
so each market itself, the average price point out there, when I was there, average price point for a condo was like 400. So I'd say 4 or 5 years now, you're probably looking at 500 average for a condo. Average sale price for a home back then was about 800. So now you're probably looking 950.
Woo!
Yeah,
Easily.
yeah, man,
Oh,
it's crazy. So like $1 million houses out there aren't luxury like they are here. Like it's just
really?
yeah, just another house, dude. It's
I'm
crazy.
If I pay $1 million for a house, I almost want a butler and an elevator
Dude,
there too. You talking about it's not
100%.
even
I need
luxury?
some land. I want a pool, and I want a basketball
Yeah.
court. You know what I mean? Like it's like
A
everything.
bowling lane.
Like it's $1 million.
That's hilarious.
Like
Yeah, that's crazy. So the cost of living, I'm assuming, is just as high
crazy.
as what we hear too.
Crazy. And like
Okay.
we don't drink milk, so I don't really know the cost of milk. But like the best way to describe it is like a hot and ready out there costs $9, where it costs 5 here. Like yeah, dude.
Oh.
Everything's like that.
Okay. Well, thank you for providing that insight into the Hawaii market. I don't think we've had anybody
I'll hook
to
you with
talk about
somebody
that,
out
so
there.
we
I
appreciate
know
it.
some good agents out there. You might want to jump on here.
Okay, yeah, let's talk after the show. I
Yeah,
would
for
love that.
sure.
I would love that.
For sure.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the most unique situation when a transaction did not go through after being under contract.
All right, most unique was one buyer. I had worked with them for probably over a year. we were under contract 4 times actually, and he fell out for basically no real reason every time. It was during the inspection period. Inspection would happen, and then he'd be like, you know what, I don't feel comfortable at this one. First couple times it happens, I'm like, that's fine, that makes sense, right? I'm like, it's totally understandable, you know what I mean? Like, you're not comfortable with X, Y. The first house we were under contract didn't have a basement. They wanted the extra space. He's like, you know, we really thought about it, and we don't want to compromise on that. I'm like, understandable, makes total sense, you know. Next house pulled out for no reason. The house was a little bit dated. But you know that the first time you walk into the house, you know, like, there's nothing saying that, nothing telling you it's not dated. You know, we got under contract, and then the inspection, it's like, you know what, I'm not really comfortable with it being this outdated. Everything was in good shape, everything like that. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see whatever you want a little more. That's fine, I get it. Next one, it was actually super competitive. This one was like, I think it was in 2021. We got under super competitive. It was like super competitive, beautiful house in Troy, really nice ranch, nice finished basement, all that stuff. But we ended up having an offer like way over. You know, I think it was listed 325, 350. Had to go all the way up to like 490 or something. Not 490, but 390. I'm sorry. That'd be great.
Hold the phone.
Crazy. Right. But like 390, you know, almost 400. And then the appraisal came back. Come to find out, he was expecting it to appraise at the list price, but it actually appraised like 10,000 under the offer price, and we did an appraisal guarantee of like 20,000, so he would have had to pay the whole thing. And he's like, you know what? I flat out said, it's like, I thought it was going to appraise way lower. I'm not willing to pay that much money for this house. I was doing it just to beat the competition. I'm like, that's not how this works. Like,
wow,
that's not it. And then so they actually held his EMD too because of it. Like, it was a $6,000 earnest money.
Oh yeah.
And he still walked. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever. Next house we got under contract. Everything was like, house was great. House was built in like late 90s, just late 90s, because that's like 20 years ago now. 20 years ago now. Late 90s. But once we get through the inspection, he's like, actually, I'm not comfortable with the age of the windows or the age of the door. And I'm like, we saw that. I specifically mentioned this stuff because I thought it would come up with you. And he's like, you know, I thought about it more, and I'm just not comfortable with it. Because we're going to have to replace everything. And we either want them to give us $20,000 in concessions or walk away. And I'm like, everything works. There's nothing wrong with these windows. There's nothing wrong with the doors. They're just original, you know, but they're still good windows. That was the crazy thing.
Right.
Everything was fine, but he still withdrew. And I was like, you know what, sir, this isn't working anymore. My reputation is on the line at this point, and I just can't continue to put these offers in and know that this is going to happen again, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I get it. And we had to part ways as friends. I still talk to him. He actually helped me out. He works at one of the automotive companies. I can't remember which one it is, but they sell tires. They do like rubber, and he helped me get some tires, you know, so we're still friends.
Okay.
It just, at transaction wise, it just wasn't working anymore. You know, I just couldn't. He did end up buying a house with a different agent. So
I was going to ask. Okay.
Yeah, he did. But I just couldn't do it, you know, and I was fully transparent with him about it, just like reputation wise. And he's like, no, I totally understand. And I was like, I get it too. You know, it's what it is. And I had I can't, I probably, because I pay agents to like show houses for me. I don't know. People talk about that, right? How like, if I don't have the time, I'll give an agent like $50 to let somebody in the door, and then I'll handle the transaction after, you know?
Okay.
And I'd probably spent at least like $300 paying agents for him, you know, just to get him in the door. Yeah. But it's part of the game.
Talk about that loss. Oh my goodness.
Game,
Yeah. So I like that you touched on your reputation in that one. Like, a lot of people, I won't even say a lot of people, but I don't think people will necessarily think, or especially clients, they don't think about the reputation of their agent when they do things like that. And you said all 4 of those situations were under contract.
Correct.
And then they pulled out. Oh man. Yep. Oh wow.
Yep.
Wow. I don't know if I would have made it past 2.
I don't know if
I would have made it past 2. The fact that he just ate that earnest money deposit too.
Right. That third, I was for sure, like, after he gave that up, I was like, oh, he's going to say he doesn't want to buy a house.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I was expecting. I was like, oh, he's done. You know, and he's like, he calls me like a week later. He's like, hey, Jake, I found another house I like. I'm like, oh my God. Dude.
Yo, he
so
had money to spend, man. Yo, that is great. I cannot just lose $6,000. I am sorry.
Dude, I know.
I am sorry.
I know. It's crazy.
You know what I want to bring up real quick? Something that you said before. this has been on my mind.
Mhm.
You mentioned the fact first time home buyers having a little bit of issue, right?
Mhm.
It's the same story I've been hearing from different agents
Yeah.
in different markets. Um, is it because most first time home buyers are looking for that move in ready home, that turnkey property, or that new construction, which is also limited, also?
Mhm.
And when there's probably a better chance of them getting a property where they would probably have to put in more work, or are you seeing first time home buyers open to all and they're still struggling?
I think it's I think that a big thing is most first time home buyers now are picky, you know? Like there is
Mm,
a lack of inventory, but I wouldn't say that it's not any blanket particularity in particular, you know, but it's
right.
just they've all got something that's like I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like there's I have one right now. He's up in like Grand Blanc area. Has to stay within the school district. Can't go over like he can't go over 200,000 FHA, but he has to have a garage and a basement and some land and these certain things, and it's deal breakers if they don't, you know. And I'm like, well, man, we're in that market right now where it's going to be super competitive, and your FHA, we're going to have to go things that are a little older. Doesn't like him or his girlfriend or wife doesn't like the things that are older. You know, I'm like, if you're not willing to be a little more lenient on something, then we're just not going to be able to be successful. But at the same
Mm,
time, we have to be really careful with the way we say it, right? Because we got to make sure that they still understand that their best interest is my number one goal always. And at the same time, we're not here just to look at houses, right? Like
oh yeah.
it's to make sure that you're taken care of, and you know that I'm taking care of you. So a lot of times you kind of got to burn it a few times though, right? Like fine, we'll go look at that house. No, you're not going to get it, but they need to learn that way, right? Except I'm like telling them everything up front without letting them see a house. They're just going to look at me like I'm a lazy agent and I'm not willing to do the work. But in reality, I'm an
Hmm.
experienced agent and I just know that it's a fool's errand, you know. But we
Yeah.
can't say that exactly, right? So we do it in a way that actually makes sense and is fair to them, and it helps them learn. Like I mentioned, my job is to educate people the best I can. The best way to educate someone is through experience. You know, if I got to burn a
Yeah.
few hours so that they can learn, I'll absolutely do it because that's the job description. You know,
Yeah. It'll save you time down the
right,
line
right,
too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I can kind of understand why they're picky, but then again, I don't. Cause it's like maybe they're under the mindset of I want something I'm going to be in forever, even though statistics show a lot
right,
of people, especially first time home buyers, aren't in their first home forever.
right.
So I don't know. Maybe there's a disconnect there, but that's something to later explore a little bit more. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Thanks for that
I
response.
think you're onto something with that too. I really do think it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
just thinking, oh well, I need this forever home first, instead of thinking I need a stepping stone to get to that forever home in 5 years. You know, like I think it is like kind of a problem with like you know our generation and the generation before because we're so used to everything now and having everything we want immediately before we even need
Mm-hmm.
it. You know, like everybody thinks they can get that with a house too. It's like no, you got to take the stepping stone in this. This is a huge investment. You know, like just trust the process. Buy a house that you got to put some work into. Know it's going to appreciate in 5 years. Take it off, and then go get the house you want. Go get that new build. Do whatever you want. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. I agree. I agree. I want to ask you about a demanding client that you may have dealt with, but I feel like the one with the closings, I mean, with the under contract, that had to have been your most demanding or difficult client, was it not? Or do
No,
you have
I've
another
had some
story?
other ones. Like, and at the same time, like I
Oh
said,
my
I mean, because some
goodness.
people, sometimes you just don't work together, right? Sometimes I'm just not the right agent for that person. That just happens
Okay.
sometimes, and we have butting heads where I've had to fire clients, clients have had to fire me. It comes with the territory, right? And it's every single time
Mm.
I do it, I do my best to make it amicable and make sure, like, hey, at the end of the day, it's not personal. Like, I get it. You got to take care of yourself. I got to take care of my business. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say one client that I had that was like super difficult that I wasn't well, one that I was able to turn around. I'll say. So it was on a buyer. He had been burned really bad by his last agent. Kind of one of those agents that just goes through just trying to get the sale. You know, just doesn't really care about the client. Is just walking in the house talking about all the great things about the house. Only wants them to buy the house. You know, like they had one of those. So it happens, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
90% of my sense. I've been in martial arts my whole life. My sensei would say that, like, if you think about it, 90% of doctors aren't in the top 10% of the industry. Same thing with realtors, right? So like
It's a good
the
point.
majority of people are not going to be that top tier 10%. It just
It's a good point.
natural how it goes. So
Yeah.
so we were working together. We looked at a couple houses, and I could tell he just was on edge. And so we were walking through this one house, and it was like it was. I flat out tell clients all the time, you don't want to buy this house. You're not gonna. I would not advise you to buy this house. Don't do it all the time. Like. So we're walking through this house, and I'm picking it apart. Like that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And then we're in the house, and I just turned. I looked in like a supply closet or something. It was like water damage or something. I was like, I walked, and I was like, you guys don't want to buy this house. Let's just get out of here. There's no point of looking anymore. And he literally just put his hand on my shoulder. And I was like, thank you so much. And after that, listened to everything, fully trusted me with everything. It was like he just had to know that I really cared, and then everything was okay. Like and that's what comes down to our job. Period. That's what I truly believe, that I help people first and I make money after.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great point that you brought up about the agents in the not even just agents, but in any field. 90% aren't performing in the 10%, the top 10 percentile, and that is 100%. There's bad apples out there.
Right.
There's bad apples out there, and there's many different personalities. Trust me, I call agents every day, and some of them hang up in my face, and I'm just trying to get them on a podcast. Right. So I'm like, how are you a professional and you can't even hold a conversation with a person? But anyway, that's a whole different story. Yeah. Your client trying to get the taste of a bad agent out of their mouth, and now they get someone like you, and they learn to appreciate it.
Exactly.
Man, what about a heartwarming story where you had to you had a seller who had an emotional attachment to their home, and they had to get rid of it? How did you help them navigate the process of letting go and moving on?
So I had one last year. It was actually a really big one. They had this beautiful house on Oxbow Lake in I can't remember the city, in White Lake Township, which is about 40 minutes outside of Detroit, north of Detroit. It's this beautiful spring-fed lake. It's like houses never come on sale there. And they had like beautiful house. The only reason she was selling is because her husband had just died. It was like he was sick for a long time, and she just couldn't keep up the house. It was only her and her two kids that are older kids too. Her mom was supposed to move in the house. They had just refinished the entire basement, like made it beautiful. It was like a Cape Cod with a beautiful walkout basement on like 3 acres right on the lake, like just a beautiful setup. And she loved this house, like they literally just finished the basement. They were planning to redo the entire house, everything. And then her husband, passed away. So she was super emotional. We remember we were sitting there during the initial like meeting, our initial listing presentation. I remember talking to her, and she started crying because it was so emotional, and I was like, I totally get it. And I related with her, I was like, I brought up my grandpa. When my grandpa died like a few years ago, and I was like, I totally get it. My whole family was a mess from it. He was kind of like the patriarch of the family, so I understand, and then she was just like, I have in my like in my profile, I'm all over social media because I like God is a really important part of my life. I have a very strong spiritual connection and all that stuff. It's very important part of my family's life. So I have it written in my profile that, I truly believe that God handles everything, and I'm just a conduit of God anyway. Different words I use, but that's basically it. And she mentioned, she's like, a big reason why I'm choosing you is because of that, because you put God first. And I'm like, absolutely. And that's truly my goal always. And she, after that, it was like, we sold our house for like $50,000 over, it was like as smooth as could be. The only thing was the buyer ended up being like a total jerk after. But even though he was a jerk about it, I still like stood my ground. I stood in between him. I protected. I did everything I possibly could.
Okay, good. Like, good, yeah, so man. Like, what,
dude? It's crazy. I mean, some people anywhere,
dude, man. Hey, I know. I know. Trust me, that is crazy.
It's crazy. So she even said, she's like, like, thank you so much for helping me navigate this. Like, I couldn't have done it without you. I ended up helping her purchase her next house, helped her mom sell her house. Like,
oh, good.
That's like the main goal, is helping people, because then in return we get help back.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunate.
That was a big one, because she was super emotional. Every step had to take a minute. Had a good cry, and I'm like, I am here to help you 100%, and she had some health stuff going on, and I just shared with her the stuff that I know, like I know about health, and my wife is like, literally, she's like a walking, she's literally like a walking textbook. Like, anything you can think of, she's like, oh, you got to take this or that for you. If you do this many drops at this time, this many times a day, like everything you can think of, she knows it all. And if she doesn't, she'll go to her book and find it. But so I was like, I shared with her, I bought her a book too, you know, like really just tried to care about her, you know, and like it helped. We're still friends. Yeah. She actually let us, before the house was sold, she actually invited us to take her pontoon out on the lake if we wanted to. We're like, well, thank you so much. I wish I had time. I just don't right now.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, it's so unfortunate that that is a part of the real estate industry and you know how things go. Like a lot of people they move because they have a loss of a loved one or divorce, and that's the main reason why they have to leave. They want to separate from these old memories and things of that nature. It's very, very unfortunate. But you know, it's part of life. Right. It's part of moving on. You were part of that process with helping her, and you know, at the end of the day, she got over asking, and you know, hopefully, you know, life carries on and moves on. So it's great to hear that you were part of that story and helped her kind of like easily let go of it and things like that. So, what about a situation where you had to navigate the purchase or the sale of a property with a complex legal or zoning restrictions? Can you please talk about that?
I had a crazy one actually. So the property itself is 1 acre. It's on, and he lives there for like 40 years. And he basically, when he bought it, it was 1 parcel in 1 town or 1 city. And then in time, the city is between Utica and Shelby Township. They split his lot directly between his house. So he has 2 houses on 1 lot. So the front house and then the back house. The back house is the one he lives in. The front house he's rented out forever. They split it directly between his house that he lives in. So literally, the back half is in Shelby Township. The front half is in Utica. It's also, while he's lived there, it was rezoned from residential to light industrial. So now it's commercial. It backs up to a highway. Yeah, like all of these things, man. Like, and he had a terrible renter in the front of the house. Trying to get him out. There was just so many different things. We went in front of the mayor, tried to talk to the mayor, tried to petition to try to do something about this property, see if there's anything we could do. Rezoning is difficult, right? So that takes forever time. Trying to split the property would be even more, trying to get the property in either one city would be even more difficult, because then one city has to give up land and they don't want to ever do that. You know, so it was like this whole drug out process. We had it listed for like almost a year. It took him 6 months just to get the tenant out. House was destroyed, like absolutely disgusting. And ended up, we actually were not able to be successful selling the house because it's zone light industrial, because it's in between the 2 cities. We would have to have sold it as non-conforming, but as non-conforming, it most likely would have had to go through a commercial loan. But the commercial loan officer said they could do it, but at the end of the day, that they were like, well, we think we can do it, but we'd have to look into it. So there were just so many different moving pieces. We ended up getting a different. He was just happy with just getting another tenant in the front house. We got a tenant in there. We got it for a pretty good price too. I think like $1,700 or something like that a month, which is really good for that area.
Cool.
But yeah, and then he was happy. He's like, okay, you know what? Because his main concern was he'd been a landlord his whole life, like basically his whole adult life. He's lived in this house, he's been a landlord. He's had a bunch of bad tenants. So I took it upon myself, like, you know what? If I can't sell this house for this guy, then I'll at least get him a good tenant that I know is going to take care of the house, you know?
Yeah.
So we got him a good tenant. It was like a younger kid working at the armory. But yeah, he was happy, and yeah, that was how that one worked out. But yeah,
that is,
how am I supposed to sell this thing? You know, but I came from contribution, right? I wanted to help the guy because he wanted to move this to the next step. He has some land up north. Just wanted to just sell his property and go buy a smaller house up north and just be done with the rigmarole of being near the city, is what he calls it. It's not the city, but you know, being down here. So, but he, so I wanted to help. I was like, I'll do whatever I can to help you in every way I can. So we took as long as we could, tried to list it as a commercial property, tried to do his multi-units, all these things, and it just wasn't working out. So he's like, you know what, let's just cut our losses and just get this thing rented out. So we were at least was able to solve a problem for him, got the bad tenant out and got a good tenant in for him.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. First of all, that's a very unique situation right there. A home is split between 2 cities. Right. And here's the thing that I hate is the fact that they make it so complicated to solve that problem.
Right,
You say the city doesn't want to give up land. Dude, it's splitting a house in half.
Right.
It's what are you giving up? Not even an acre?
How did
Like,
you do it at first? How did you know
please.
what I mean? Like it wasn't like that forever. How did you did it at first? One of you took land already, just give it back. Like, come
Oh
on.
man, that is a complicated situation. Kudos to you for finding a
Thanks,
way
man.
to make your client happy at the end of that. Cause
Find
what am
something,
I
dude.
gonna do?
Something,
Man, looking back on your career, um, I don't know your situation. I believe you said you're a homeowner
Yep,
currently,
yep.
but let's say you're not a homeowner in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
You are an aspiring homeowner, first time homeowner. But knowing everything that you know now, your knowledge and the resources that are available, what approach would you take to owning a home in 2023?
Right now, 2023, with the way that interest rates, well, so let me preface this a little bit. Because of
Mhm.
my experience and what I have going on and my market knowledge and all of that I know, the reason why this makes sense is because of that.
Mhm.
So what I would do with everything that I have is purchase a house, seller finance, because I can bypass
Mm.
the interest rates. I can get the terms that I want, and I can still own the house. Because there's different options of seller financing, right? I can just do a full-on seller finance, or I could do a subject to if there's a loan still in place. I could do a lease option. There's so many different options that I can do. But with my experience, I know those things, and I know how to negotiate to get the best terms possible for myself, where I own the house and live in it. For someone that doesn't have the experience, though, or the market knowledge, or the different things going on, the simplest way is getting a mortgage. Getting your normal
Right.
mortgage from a local lender or a local broker. And that's what I would do if I was not experienced. But with what I know and how I do it, I'm actually like 100% seller finance. I bought my house on seller finance. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, just because I can get the terms that I want, and I don't have to deal with a 7% interest rate. I can get I have a 5% interest rate right now.
I want to talk about that more.
Yeah,
Seller finance. Let's clear that out.
yeah,
Let's clear that out. And seller financing, is that the same as buying this home that's for sale by owner, going directly to
potentially.
them?
Yeah, potentially. So
Okay.
say if you're for sale by owner home, um, they have any option in the world, right? They can sell the house however they want. So seller finance works the way a full seller finance deal works is that the seller owns the house outright and they can sell
Mm-hmm.
it completely, and then the seller themselves becomes the bank. So instead of a bank
Correct.
being involved at all, the seller is the bank. So
Mm-hmm.
say there's a perfect example. Say there's a for sale by owner, and they want to sell their house for $300,000. The house is now current market value for that house is about 275, 280. But they are like, no, my house is worth 300,000. That's all I'll take for it. It's like, okay, awesome. Because you own the house outright, I will buy the house from you for $300,000, but you'll take my terms for it. So by that saying,
Mm.
okay, so current market interest rates are 7%. I want to buy this house for 5% interest rate. I'll give you $5,000 up front for a down payment, and then my monthly payment will be $1,500, just for sake of an example. And they'll say
Mm-hmm.
yes, no, or because most of the time, because they're still getting their price, they're getting an upfront fee. They're like, okay, fine. No, then they become the bank. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
yeah. So seller financing, that's the way that works. But they're subject to also. So say if you own your house, same thing. If you're for sale by an owner, but you have a current mortgage in place for the house is worth 300, but you have a mortgage in place, you owe 200,000. Then I can still do the same thing, and I just pay your mortgage off. So I get the deed to the house. I own the house. You still own the mortgage, but I pay towards the mortgage. So that's subject to.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we could do that way as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. So essentially, it is like you said, for sale by owner, but the situation varies depending on if you own the home outright or if you're still paying a mortgage on the home
Correct.
as the owner.
Yep, yep,
Correct.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And okay. So for clarification purposes, for our audience and just for myself too,
Yep.
um, you still would need a real estate lawyer to potentially make that contract in those terms. Is that correct?
You always consult a lawyer for contracts, right? Always
Gotcha.
100% consult a lawyer for contracts, unless you're working with an established title company. Established title companies,
Hmm.
Legacy Title, they do in Michigan. Legacy Title is like the go-to for investors. They know it like the back of their hand. They're always doing seller financing or creative financing, so they've got all the documents that you'll need. Or if they don't have it, they'll be like, "Hey, talk to this investor. They'll give you exactly what you need. That's already written up. That's already written by a lawyer." You know. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And if one is searching for a home via seller financing, would they still be able to reach out to an agent? Is that something that an agent will help with?
Potentially, I'd say it goes to that 90-10 rule again. 90% agents aren't going to know how to do a deal like that. Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Okay.
That's why I prefaced it with, you have to know what's going on and how to do it before that being the best option for you.
Good point.
Because you could actually shoot yourself in the foot real bad if you do it without knowing. You could really screw yourself over, and I would never want to see that. So it's mainly, you got to have the knowledge and the expertise and the network to know what to do properly.
Sounds right. That sounds good. Man, thank you so much, Jake, for sharing that knowledge. I definitely learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot also. So we want to thank you for pulling up a chair to the closing table at this point. If you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it, man. No, this has been awesome. I'm really happy about it. And like I said, I'll definitely, after this, let me know. I can definitely send some agents in Hawaii over to you, because I think it'd be great. You'd love that for sure. Best way to get in contact with me is my cell phone. Just Jake. Well, my name's just Jake Davis. My cell phone's 248-978-6020. Email is Jake at T as in Tom, D as in Delta, Ohana, OHANA.com. But yeah, honestly, look me up on anything. I'm mostly on my personal page anyway, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, best way to reach me is my phone. Shoot me a text. Easiest way, 248-978-6020.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you again, Jake. Please reach out to Jake Davis if you need help buying or selling homes in the Metro Detroit area or Rochester Hills. And for our YouTube audience, if you've gotten to this point in the video, please do us both a favor and hit the like button, please. Make sure you also share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Jake, I'm always going to leave our audience with a question, get their brains turning on the way out the chat room. So, audience, this is for you. What was the hardest thing about leaving your previous home? I want you to tell us about a memory that you had in your home. Don't tell us now, leave it in the comments below. Besides that, I'll talk to you next time.